Page 8, Alpine Polka. This is a fun little piece. Looks ugly with all these eighth notes and junk going around, but let's just take a look. Just take it a piece at a time. We're starting out in 2 sharps. That's the key of D major. You really should go do the scale. If you don't know it, learn the scale for D major, at least 1 octave up and down, because it gets you accustomed to playing in this key with an F sharp and a C sharp. And that way you'll just automatically make the F's and the C's sharp. You don't have to worry about the key signatures so much. Now as a pickup beat in the right hand, we're coming in on beat 4. Okay, you got eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, we can do that. You look at the end of the 3rd line down, and you have a thin and thick bar line. That's the symbol for end of a piece. In other words, this song is going to end here eventually. Well, there's a fine there, it makes sense. But right after that, then you have natural signs, and then you have a sharp sign. What's going on? Well, I'm glad you asked, I'll tell you. We're changing key signatures. So I had 2 sharps. So what they're doing is they're taking 1 sharp away, that's the natural sign. They're taking the C sharp away, go away, C sharp, and now you end up with an F sharp. You just got 1 sharp. They're not adding a sharp. The sharp is already there. They're just letting you know, yes, it's there. So in the 4th line down, you'll see the new key signature. Now you're in G major. Make sure you can do the scale for G major. Then at the bottom of page 8, you see the double bars at the end of the line and the natural signs. So now they're taking your sharp away. Now you're going into C major. And those double bars, it's a section. See, the first 3 lines on page 8 is 1 section, and then the next 2 lines is another section. See, sections don't have to be the same length. And then on page 9, you're starting out in C major here. Make sure you can do the C major scale. And at the end of the 3rd line down on page 9, you get the double bars again. That's the end of that section. Now they're giving you a sharp back. So now we're going back into G major. We don't know where we're at, do we? And so the last 2 lines on page 9 is another section. And then at the bottom of page 9, at the end, you get the double bars again. Well, that's the end of that section. Now they're giving you 2 sharps. Because the DC Alfine, you see there underneath the stab, the DC means go back to the beginning. Alfine means go to fine. So at this point, you're going back to the beginning. Well, you're in D major again. And that's why they gave you the 2 sharps down there, to let you know you're going into D major. They usually always tell you beforehand where you're going, and that's what they're doing at the end of these lines. They're telling you, get ready. So we're changing key signatures. D major, G major, C major. Have a ball with this one. Now let's take it 1 hand at a time and get this rhythm and fingering, because we are going to be moving around a bit. You're starting out in here in a 5-finger position. 4 and. 4 and 1 and. Remember the F sharp and the C sharp. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can come up here. If you got big fat hands and big fat fingers, that doesn't work because you can't get in here very well. You don't fit. If you got littler hands, it doesn't matter. So if that's the case, reach down and use 2nd finger. Because if you got big fat hands, you can reach this. It's not hard. This keeps your hand out here. I'm liable to do either one. So again, that last measure of the 1st line, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's a 4 and. 4 and 1, 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now come up here a little bit. See, we reached out a little bit. The thumb stays where it is. Now come back down. And again, this 3rd line down, 2nd measure. Got big hands. You can do that. I can do this 3rd finger again. That way I'm here. I'm just going from here to here. So I'm doing here. Otherwise, go ahead and use the fingering of the bow. Now I suggest on the last measure of the 3rd line here, your 2nd, I suggest you put thumb on the last one. This way you're in position for the next line, because you just reach up to an octave. That's a D. If you're in thumb, it just helps a little bit. So on the last one, 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, we changed key signatures. Now it's a C natural. It's just F sharps is all. If you have big hands, you do this. Smaller hands, you do that. I'll leave that up to you and your hands. 2, 3, 4. Let's go to the top of page 9. Now we're in C major. Now go down to the last 2 measures on page 8. You're here. However you finger that, you can use 3rd finger on that A if you want to. For big hands. But on the last mate, put a thumb on the last one. The same thing what we had before, because now you're going to go up an octave here. And if you use the thumb, you're in position. Because at the top of page 9, you're up here. Now 1 and all I'm doing is rotating. I'm just passing the weight from finger to finger. It's a very slight motion, but nevertheless, I'm passing weight from finger here, here, here. And I can do that from any finger to any finger. And that's all. I'm not holding the hand still. I'm trying to use the fingers to do this. I don't recommend it. The thumb comes down. These are just broken chords. And at the 3rd line down, 2nd measure here, you can do it. We don't have any black keys involved. However, I still suggest you use the last one with a thumb, because in the next line, the notes are written here, but it's an 8VA over it. The last 2 lines have an 8VA over the top staff, so you got to come up here. So if you're here, you're above an octave. You're more than an octave, but you're closer. If you use the thumb, you're closer to where you want to be. So forth. And then at the end, the last line, last measure. Then you go back to the top. DC means go back to the beginning. But there's a note. There's a note above the line, above the staff, 2nd time 8VA all fine. That means the 2nd time you play it, you're going to play the top staff 8VA or an octave higher all the way to fine. Fine's at the end of the 3rd line. Well, the 2nd time you play it is from the DC, because you play the whole thing through. There's no repeat signs anywhere. You play the whole thing through to the DC. Then you go back to the beginning. Well, that's the 2nd time. Well, you're finishing here at the bottom of page 9. So you're here. Not here, you're up here. Here. So if you want to end it at the bottom of page 9 with 4th finger, you're in position. You don't have to move. So last 2 measures on page 9. And then I'm ready to go back. So forth. And I'm going to stay up here all the way to the end of the 3rd line. Left hand, well, you got broken chords. Well, that's fine because you got enough to do in the right hand. So just 1 chord in D major, 5/7 chord. Then the 4th line down, you're in G major, 1 chord, 5/7 chord. Then on page 9, you're in C major, 1 chord, 5/7 chord. 4th line down, back to G major, 1 chord, 5/7 chord. So you know your chords. This 8VA at the beginning there is only for the right hand. So when you finish here in the left hand here, at the bottom of page 9, you get 1 beat rest while the right hand plays the pickup. You get 1 beat rest to go back down to here, because the left hand doesn't go up, it stays here. So you're 1, 2, 3, rest. So forth. Now when you got the hands worked out, try putting them together, and you can go as slow as you need to go, and you can hesitate if you need to. You're just trying to get that hands to work together. Right there, at the end of the 1st line, last beat, here. You work it out, and the tricky part may be the key changes. At the end of the 3rd line, you're here. You're going to reach up. There's no rest in the right hand. You get a rest in the left hand. That gives you a chance to move. 2, 3. At the end of the line or end of the page on 8, you're here. Reach up. While you're playing that, left hand's got to come down. And at the end of the third line you're here, reach up, and while you're playing that, the left hand's got to come up. So it's 1, 2, 3. At the end of the page, on page 9, you're here, and during that 2 beat, left hand's got to come down. So it's. It's up to you. To work out the hesitations, it needs to be a steady beat. A polka is a dance. People are moved to this. So once you finally get it, it's got to be a steady. You can't hesitate anywhere or you mess up the dancers. Very important with a dance or a march or any kind of music that people are moving to, you've got to keep a steady beat going. No matter what happens, mess up the notes all you need to, but don't mess up the beat. Then we have the articulation. Well, slurs. Short slurs, you know what I mean. But this isn't. So add in all the articulation. You can read it as well as I can. Now watch out on the ending of each of these sections. Those notes are accented. Give them a little extra oomph. Which brings us to dynamics. So that's the melody. Whatever you think loud is. Keep the left hand in the background. Whatever you think loud is. And the accents are a little louder than that. Fourth line down in the second section, you're soft. So keep it soft. Except for the accented notes, that takes up to about a moderately soft. And then you're loud at top here. Left hand's moderately soft. Go fourth. And then again, fourth line down on page 9, you're soft. That means the left hand has to be very soft. So forth. That's the dynamics. Get to know it well enough you can feel these dynamics. But one part is soft, another part is loud. You're going back and forth between soft and loud, so forth. Speed, well, it says allegro, but it's got to be your allegro. It's got to be accurate. So how fast can you play it accurate? If your allegro is this, then good enough, if that's your allegro. If you can, you take it up a little, you know, about what a polka might go to. I'd like to play it with you very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do any dynamics, but we will do the whole thing, the DC Alfini and the whole bit. So I'll give us 3 counts because we come in on beat 4. Let's just go over it very slowly together. And again, this is after you've learned it. You learn it first where you can play it at least slowly, okay? And then play it with me to check your notes and rhythm. 1 and ready and go and. to the beginning.